Today we want to beat every single Pokemon champion, and there is a lot of them, as Barry. Barry's a lovable character from Generation 4, but would he be able to finally take on and defeat every champion? If he does manage to beat them all, his 3 powerful trainers he must face to claim victory. And if he loses, well, he owes them 10 million. With some added rules for more difficulty, could Barry beat every Pokemon champion? First up is Pokemon Fire Red, and we have the champion for this game, Blue. We have 4 Pokemon versus his 6, so not the best start, but we have some real hard hitters too. I think we can make it through, but I am a bit worried. Blue's lead is his Pidgeot, and well, we don't have a set lead just yet, so I decide to lead with Heracross. We hit a Rock Slide turn 1 and we snag a flinch, so that's a great start to the run. Blue then wastes a full restore as our next Rock Slide brings him back to the red. We then take down his first Pokemon with Heracross, and out second is Alakazam. I always connect Mega Horns if my last run is anything to go off, and we take down Alakazam in just one move. But this brings out Arcanine. We hit a Rock Slide to over half, and we get a flinch again. But then RNG bites us back as we miss a Rock Slide and we take a Flamethrower to put us low. A final Rock Slide and Heracross is demolishing Blue. Then is Executor, a Mega Horn attack, and that's a knocked out 3-headed Eggplant. This brings out his Rhydon. We hit a Brick Break for a critical hit one shot, and this just leaves his last Pokemon, Blastoise. We unfortunately miss our Mega Horn, and then we fall to a Hydro Pump when we were so close to a Heracross sweep. That's unfortunate, but what a Pokemon he is. This gives us a swap to our Roselia. We hit a Giga Drain to bring Blastoise to just under half as he decides to set up the rain. Then he eats his berry, healing him a little bit. A final Giga Drain attack for a very convincing win over Blue, but the next champion, we can have our full team. Lance is the champion of Johto and the next we face. He's a Dragon type champion, and now we have our full strength team. I've opted to take a Floatzel for now over Snorlax, a Pokemon I've rarely used. Let's see how we fare into Lance. Lance's lead is Gyarados, and my lead for the run is Empoleon. We hit a Grass Knot for fantastic damage, and then we tank a resisted Waterfall. Our second Grass Knot leaves him on just a sliver of HP as he Waterfalls us again. Then Lance decides to use a full restore as I just keep on tripping him over with Grass Knots. The next turn, Lance actually doubles on us, going into his level 49 Dragonite as our Grass Knot critical hits. He then doubles out again into his other level 49 Dragonite as we Flash Cannon on the swap, doing exactly half. So we stay in and Flash Cannon again for the knockout. He then goes back into his injured Dragonite, and we Flash Cannon, putting him in the red as he paralyzes us with Thunder Wave. He then misses a Dragon Rush before we get to take him out. Then is Aerodactyl, who Thunder Fangs us for good damage as our Flash Cannon just obliterates a prehistoric bird. This brings out Gyarados again, who then proceeds to Waterfall, paralyze, flinch us to death, but Empoleon really put a dent in Lance. We go into Roserade and Giga Drain, not doing enough to take him down, and then we take a massive Ice Fang in return. Lance full restores as I just keep Giga Draining. Then we critical hit, taking him down. This brings out Charizard, who we Sludge Bomb for over half and poison as we live a Fire Fang on 31 HP. A final Sludge Bomb and Charizard falls, leaving his ace to level 50 Dragonite left. We Sludge Bomb for exactly half before we die to a Fire Blast. This gives us a free switch into Floatzel, however, who can then proceed to take down Dragonite with an Ice Fang. Defeating our second champion of the run, it's time to head to Hoenn where 2 champions await us. In Pokemon Omega Ruby, Steven is the champion. He has mainly Rock and Steel types, and our team is looking great actually versus him. He does have a Mega Metagross, but his team is just super weak to Empoleon, so let's give it a shot. Steven's lead is Skarmory, and turn 1 our Empoleon Surf does massive damage to the bulky Steel type as he sets up a layer of spikes to hurt my team on the switch in. The next turn, Steven uses a full restore to heal his Steel Bird as we bring him back to the red with a Surf. A final attack from our powerful Penguin, and down he goes. Second, he decides to send out Aggron. It has Sturdy, which we bring him straight down to with a Surf as he retaliates with an Earthquake for good damage, but not enough to scare us. A final Surf, and we take down Steven's second Pokemon. Third, he then goes into Claydol, which is questionable. He's deliberately throwing this fight. A single Surf takes down Claydol, and Empoleon has swept half of his team. This brings out the Grass type Cradily. We have Flash Cannon and Stab, so it does amazing damage, but he survives and confuses us with Confuse Ray. The following turn, Steven full restores up his ancient Grass type as we hit ourselves in Confusion. We then hit ourselves in Confusion again and take a Giga Drain, but Empoleon refuses to die and survives on 22 HP. We then snap out of Confusion and deliver a devastating Flash Cannon that critical hits to Oko Cradily. Fifth is our Moldol, who doesn't take a Surf because he's Rock type, and we have Torrent activated, boosting Water type attacks, so he falls too, and we're on to his last Pokemon, Metagross. Steven Mega Evolves his Metagross, and we hit a boosted Surf, bringing him to the yellow before Metagross takes down Empoleon with a Giga Impact. This gives us a now easy swap into Rapidash to take down Metagross with a Flame Wheel, and with that we destroyed Steven. I knew Empoleon would be good, but this good? Let's keep the momentum going. Our second champion for Generation 3 is Wallace. He's a Water type specialists, and we've had to go back to our first team that we faced blue with for probably the last time this run. This leaves us with 4 Pokemon and 1 super weak to water. Let's see how we fare. Wallace's lead is a massive Wailord, and I lead with Heracross, who immediately misses a Mega Horn and then takes a double edge to the face. Then we connect a Mega Horn to take Wailord to a sliver as he blizzards Heracross, freezing us. I go for a risky play, Sword Stancing on Wallace's full restore. We 4 out and get a +2 to our attack, so that's perfect. We then deliver a Mega Horn for the 1-hit knockout on the whale. Then comes Whiscash, who also goes down to a single Mega Horn too. This brings out Tentacruel, who we miss a Mega Horn on and immediately die to a Hydro Pump. I go into Snorlax now and we take a Sludge Bomb to the face before we take down Tentacruel with a single shake of the earth. Now is Ludicolo. We jump on his head and do massive damage as he double teams. Thankfully we connect our next one to take him down with no issues. This brings out Gyarados, who intimidates us, lowering our attack, then proceeds to set up a Dragon Dance. We hit a Body Slam, taking him close to half, and we snag the Paralysis, which is perfect. Our next Body Slam then critical hits to take down Gyarados. This brings out Milotic. We hit a Body Slam for massive damage and he tries to poison us, but we resist thanks to our ability Immunity. Another Body Slam brings him to a sliver of HP and we get the Paralysis again, as he heals with his berry, taking him out of full restore range. A final attack from Snorlax and we defeat Wallace first try. With that we beat both Generation 3 champions onto Gen 4. Cynthia is the champion of the Sinnoh region. Her team is a powerful one. We're back to our main team now for this run and we match up quite nicely, although Garchomp is always scary. Cynthia's lead is Spirit Tomb and then Polion puts a massive dent in her with a Surf before a Dark Pulse does nothing. A Signal Beam then takes down the Ghost Pokemon. Second is Garchomp, who immediately kills us with a critical hit Earthquake. Great. This gives us a swap into Floatzel though to Ice Fang for massive damage as he eats his berry, then Earthquakes us for massive damage too. A final Ice Fang though and we deal with this monstrous threat. Third is Roserade, and Ice Fang just destroys the poor grass type in one bite. This brings out Togekiss. We freeze our fangs once more, doing over half before we die to an Air Slash. We then send out Staraptor and I go for a Pluck, but we just miss out on the knockout and take a massive Air Slash in return. Cynthia full restores, so I just keep on plucking. We bring it back down before Togekiss finally gets to kill Staraptor. I go into Rapidash to immediately revenge kill it with a Flame Wheel, but this brings out Milotic next. We Poison Jab for a little bit of damage and a Surf just does massive damage to us. Cynthia gets quite cocky by Ice Beaming Rapidash, but he survives on 1 HP. This means we get to take down Milotic the next turn with a Poison Jab. This brings out her last Pokemon Lucario, who's weak to fire, and a Flame Wheel puts him in the red before he kills Rapidash with an Aura Sphere. We go into Roserade now and I go for a Giga Drain on the full restore, but it's not doing much damage. We then Giga Drain again, bringing her to below half before a Psychic brings us low too. I bring Lucario back to the red with a Shadow Ball before we fall to an Earthquake, but we still have an easy counter in the back, being Heracross, who takes down Lucario with a close combat, beating Cynthia. It's time to head to Gen 5 where 2 champions await us once more. First up in Gen 5 is Alder, and he's got some solid Pokemon with a big weakness to fire, so Rapidash may be good for us here. Let's start the Universe champions. Alder's lead of Viselgor isn't the best for Empoleon as we get hit by a Focus Blast for massive damage and lowers our special defense as our Surf does massive damage to him. Then we fall to his second Focus Blast attack. I now send out Staraptor and pick up the knockout with a Pluck. This then brings out Vanillux, who we close combat for a 1-hit knockout with a critical hit. Third is Bufalon, who we close combat to 1 HP before we get taken out by a Stone Edge attack. So now I go into Heracross, who can finish off Bufalon with a close combat. This brings out Volcarona, who can't stand to a 4-time super effective Rock Slide either. Escavalier comes out, takes a close combat to low before taking out Heracross with an Aerial Ace. I send out Rapidash to immediately take down the Steel Bug with a Flame Wheel, and his last Pokemon is Druddigon. We Poison Jab for great damage thanks to a critical hit before a single Outrage takes down Rapidash. This gives us a free swap into Floatzel though to freeze his fangs and win the fight. This means we beat Alder on our first Generation 5 champion. It's time to face the second. Iris is the second champion and the majority of her Pokemon are dragons. We have really great coverage for her team, but she can do some serious damage to ours, especially Haxorus. Iris's lead is Hydreigon, and turn 1 we get Charge Beamed for a little damage but raises his special attack too. We then Signal Beam for huge damage back to the Dark type. Second turn he Charge Beams again, really hurting us, but our Signal Beam takes him down and that's 1 out of 6. Second is Druddigon, who we hit with a Surf for a quarter before succumbing to a Focus Blast. I now decide to go into Floatzel. We outspeed and hit an Ice Fang to bring Druddigon to the red before a Rock Slide does a tremendous amount of damage. Iris then full restores, but a couple more Ice Fangs and he goes down. This brings out Lapras that we can't really hurt apart from a measly crunch before she knocks out Floatzel with a Thunderbolt. I go into Heracross and close combat to take down the transport Pokemon, but this brings out Archeops that we're actually faster than, and a Rock Slide takes down the prehistoric bird too. Then is Aggron, who we then critical hit with a close combat to take him down as well, leaving only a Haxorus left. We close combat once more for massive damage before he sets up a Dragon Dance. The next turn he takes down Heracross with a Dual Chop, and I must say he's slowly becoming one of my favourite Pokemon. This gives us a swap to Staraptor, who intimidates Haxorus before dodging a Dual Chop and finishing him off with a Pluck. Defeating Generation 5's champion, it's time to head to Kalos and Generation 6. Diantha is the champion of Kalos, and who we take on next. Her team's pretty strong and she's got a Mega Gardevoir, but she has a very big weakness to Empoleon, who I'm sure can put in some solid work again. Actually, maybe not. Her lead is a fighting type Hawlucha, but he does set up a Swords Dance, raising his attack as our Surf brings him to a sliver of HP. Diantha full restores the Luchador bird, but our next Surf rolls better and we take him out. Second, she sends out Gudra. We just Flash Cannon for just under half as the Focus Blast is doing over half. We Flash Cannon again to bring him lower before Gudra gets lucky again and Focus Blasts us to take down Empoleon. So we go into Floatzel and freeze our Fangs to knock out the bulky dragon. Third is Aurorus. It's part rock type and pretty frail. Floatzel's Stab Waterfall gets a one-hit knockout on it. Fourth is Galgeist, a Ghost Grass type. We crunch for massive damage as she just trick or treats us, adding the Ghost type into us, and Floatzel can take out yet another Pokemon the next turn. Fifth is a T-Rex Tyrantrum. It's a rock and dragon type, so Waterfall is neutral here and deals okay damage as the crunch just absolutely obliterates us. Then I go into Staraptor, who intimidates the T-Rex, then proceeds to make it extinct again with a close combat. This leaves her last Pokemon and her ace Gardevoir, who traces our Intimidate, lowering our attack too. She then Mega Evolves as we fire off a huge Brave Bird, but thanks to Intimidate, Gardevoir now lives and takes down Staraptor with a Thunderbolt. But we have an easy switch into Roserade though, as Diantha full restores and a Sludge Bomb puts Gardevoir on 1 HP. She full restores yet again, but our next Sludge Bomb rolls a higher number to take down the Mega Gardevoir, defeating Kalos' champion. It's time to set sail to Alola. How is the person we fight to become champion here, and he's always one of the most trickiest. His team really does pack a punch. I think Barry's team can navigate through him. I'm curious to how this battle will go. So our first attempt goes pretty badly. This is our first fail of the run. Tauros is just way too strong for some of our team and can OHKO most Pokemon with Double Edge. Roserade can take him down but only lives on 5 HP, leaving an Incineroar to go absolutely mad, overkill us by going for a Z move, Inferno Overdrive, and losing our first attempt. With a bit better play by me, I'm sure we can win this next try. How's lead is an Alolan Raichu and we're just at a massive disadvantage. I'm expecting Empoleon to get deleted, but he tanks a Thunderbolt quite nicely and we reply with a Signal Beam to the Psychic Raichu. Hal burns one of his many full restores here as we Signal Beam again, but Empoleon critical hits as he doesn't want to deal with Raichu anymore. Second is Tauros, the team killer, who immediately takes down Empoleon with an Earthquake. But we have Staraptor now, who can intimidate this thing, lowering its attack by 1 stage too. We take a Double Edge, bringing us to half, as after recoil, a close combat looks like it barely gets a knockout, but I'll take that. Then Hal sends out his Ice Crab, but it's also weak to Staraptor. Another close combat and another kill for Staraptor. Fourth is Incineroar. It's also weak to fighting, so I just keep pressing close combat. It survives all thanks to its bulk, and that means one thing: with our defenses at a -3 thanks to close combat secondary effect, an Inferno Overdrive nuke from Incineroar is enough to definitely take us out. But it's now weakened, so Floatzel can come in and easily revenge kill it with a Waterfall, and this run is looking much better. This brings out Leafeon, who our Ice Fang doesn't really do anything to before one Leaf Blade destroys us. Nice. I go into Roserade now and we get Baby Doll's Eyes, reducing our attack, but it doesn't matter as we shoot a Sludge Bomb at Leafeon's face to take it down. This leaves his last Pokemon, Noivern, who instead of Air Slashing us, Super Fangs us, so we get a big hit off for free. Then he proceeds to click the right move and Air Slash us to take us down. I go into Rapidash as Noivern hits a Dragon Pulse for big damage as we finish him off with a Poison Jab, becoming champion of Alola and beating Hal. It's time for the Switch games now and back to Kanto. So for Trace, we don't have a full team of Pokemon. In fact, we only have 2 Snorlax and Rapidash, but I decide to have them max their AVs for old time's sake. While Trace's Pokemon only have 3 moves, I know, it's fair. Time to destroy him. We lead with our god for this fight, Snorlax. With max AVs, he truly is a monstrous powerhouse. Trace Mega Evolves his Pidgeot, but Snorlax has been trained by speedsters and is faster than the bird and destroys him with a Thunder Punch. Second is Vileplume. Channeling his inner fire, we unleash a Fire Punch for the one shot, and now we're getting warmed up. Get it? Third is Marowak, and it's time to cool down. We freeze our fist, but he actually survives on a sliver before a brick break does nothing to us, as the next turn we finish him off with a freezing fist. Now we jump on top of a horse's head, and with all the weight behind us, Rapidash falls too. Wouldn't you if Snorlax jumped on you? The same goes for Jolteon. Trace's poor Pokemon are just being squished by Snorlax. This leaves him with just a Slowbro. Now we are fully charged up and electrify our fist as Slowbro survives it and surfs on the waves for negligible damage. Trace, sensing danger, starts using his plethora of full restores as we're fully charged and keep on Thunder Punching. Eventually he runs out of items and Snorlax takes down Slowbro with a Thunder Punch, sweeping Trace with ease, just like old times. I hope you enjoyed that. It's time for Gala. The champion for Sword and Shield is Leon. His team is really strong with a Gigantamax Charizard, and our team is now crippled for this game, thanks to Dexit, where a lot of Pokemon wasn't available. I honestly don't know how we will win this, but I'm going to try and come up with some sort of strategy on the fly. Leon's lead is his Aegislash and Snorlax is our lead here. Aegislash is actually faster than us and really hurts us instantly with a Sacred Sword, but his defenses are now lowered so an Earthquake can take him out in just one super effective hit. This brings out Haxorus, who hits an Outrage, and I expect Snorlax to fall, but we hang on with a Sliver, hit a Freezing Ice Punch, and we snag a Freeze. That's perfect. So Snorlax can pick up a second knockout now, making it a more even fight for us. But now is Dragapult, who's a super quick Ghost Dragon and finishes off our poor Snorlax with a Flamethrower. I go into Rapidash now, who has good move coverage, and I'm contemplating Dynamax in here, and I decide to go for it. Rapidash is quite a powerful Pokemon with a good moveset in later generations, so we go for a Max Starfall that's super effective and takes it down, and sets up Misty Terrain in the process too. This brings out Inteleon, his Water Starter, but we have access to an electric move. We go for a Max Lightning, and it does enough damage to nuke Inteleon, and we set up Electric Terrain too in the process. All the terrains being set up right now. Fifth is Mr. Rhyme, the dancing Mr. Mime. It's our final turn of Dynamax, so I choose to Max Flare to melt the part Ice type, leaving just one Pokemon left, Charizard. But we've gave him the Sun too. We need to do a dent in him, and Leon Gigantamaxes, as Rapidash is faster and hits a Wild Charge for massive damage, over half, as a Max Rockfall from Charizard is more than enough to take down our precious Firehawk, and it sets up the Sandstorm, so he takes a bit more chip damage too. Our last two Pokemon are weak to fire, so we have to hope we are faster, and Roserade is. And in a shock, we beat Leon first try with 4 Pokemon. Honestly, Barry is showing me how strong he really is. Let's head on to the final main champion in the mainline games, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. The last champion is Geeta for Generation 9, and she's got some really unique Pokemon. Barry loses Roserade here, so I decide to add Arboliva to the team in replacement. I just think Barry might have had one in Paldea, and I think it's a fitting swap to Roserade. Let's defeat her. Her lead is Espartha, and we lead off with Empoleon. Oh, how I've missed you. Espartha sets up a Reflect boost in the team's defense as we surf on the waves for massive damage. Then the Ostrich hits a weak Lumina Crash, lowering Empoleon's special defense as we pick up a knockout the next turn with a Surf. Second, Geeta chooses Avalog. While bulky defensively, its special defense isn't so great. We outspeed and surf on the waves, bringing her to a Sliver as she hits a Body Press, putting us on a Sliver of HP too. Geeta never uses full restore, so a final Surf and we take down the Ice Slab. This brings out King Gambit, Bishop's evolution. In a final act of service, Empoleon hits a massive Torrent boosted Surf before falling to a Katal Cleave. Reflect falls off, so I go into Floatzel and take down King Gambit with a Waterfall. This brings out Golgo. We Ice Fang for big damage as he then Horn Leeches us for even more, nearly taking us out. We Ice Fang once more to get off as much damage as we can before inevitably falling to a Horn Leech. I choose Staraptor as my next Pokemon and Brave Bird Golgo to take it down. This brings out Veluza, the Psychic Fish Pokemon. We Brave Bird for massive damage as we take an Ice Fang to 39 HP, barely holding on. A final Brave Bird and we take down Veluza, leaving just one Pokemon standing in our way. That's her Ace Glamora. Geeta terastallizes it into a pure rock type, so our close combat does massive damage, but it's just not enough as we lower our defenses and activate the ability Toxic Debris before we fall to a single Sludge Wave. I then go into Snorlax, who gets hit by a Terra Blast, but eats it up super nicely as a Snorlax would before delivering the final blow with an Earthquake to take down Glamora, beating Geeta and every single Pokemon champion as Barry. Or have we? Atop of the Snowy Mount Silver is a legendary trainer Red and a champion trainer at that. Pikachu straight away annihilates Empoleon with a critical hit Volt Tackle, which is a bad start. I go into Roserade, who is faster, and takes him out of a Sludge Bomb, but this just brings out Charizard. We smash him with a Sludge Bomb before he crits us again with a Flare Blitz, taking us down. down, but he dies to recoil and hail too, so that's not a bad trade. This brings out Lapras as we go into Heracross. Our Rock Slide does great damage and we return the hacks with a flinch. The next turn we can take him down with another Rock Slide. This then brings out Blastoise, who we close combat for massive damage before we take a Blizzard, but not very well. Blue full restores as we keep on close combating. Eventually we take down Blastoise with close combats, and his next Pokemon is Snorlax, but it's a normal type, so yet another close combat takes him down, and Heracross is once again putting in the work. His last Pokemon is Venusaur, who barely survives a Mega Horn before taking us down with a Sludge Bomb. It's an easy swap now though to Rapidash, as Red full restores and we Flame Wheel. Red keeps full restoring, but it's in vain as Flame Wheel is doing far too much damage for him to stall us out, and we take down Venusaur, beat him Red, and he disappears and leaves 2 champions remaining. Team Plasma and a champion himself, who also has a legendary we need to win to continue. Enley's with Reshiram and we lead Empoleon. A Fusion Flare does nearly half to us as our Surf does less damage to him. Reshiram's next Fusion Flare rolls higher and takes down Empoleon. We send out Rapidash, which was a mistake as our Poison Jab doesn't do too much to him as he Hyper Beams us, bringing us really low. I then Poison Jab again, snagging a Poison too, and with that damage Reshiram falls and he doesn't heal. This brings out Caracosta, who immediately takes us out with a priority Aqua Jet. I go into Roserade and a 4-time super effective Giga Drain brings him to his sturdy as a Stone Edge really hurts us. M-Full restores, but we just heal off most of the damage with a few more Giga Drains taking him down. His next Pokemon Vanillix lives as Sludge Bomb and then takes Roserade out with a single Blizzard. So I go into Floatzel and I go for a Waterfall to melt the ice cream. This then brings out Klinklang, who takes close to half from a Waterfall as we dodge a Metal Sound. We do more damage and take a Thunderbolt, but Floatzel comes out on top, taking him out. This brings out Zoroark, who survives a Waterfall but misses a Focus Blast, so that's another knockout for Floatzel, leaving only an Archeops left. He's weak to water though, and Floatzel got a real time to shine here on end, paving way for our last champion of the run. Kieran, the most latest champion to be introduced and one of the hardest. This has a focus on double battles. We had to bring back our Paldean team again for this fight. Can Barry beat every Pokemon champion? Let's find out. Kieran's lead is Politoed and Dragonite with an emphasis on a rain setup here, and Empoleon can definitely take advantage of it as we lead Empoleon and Snorlax. I decide to Ice Beam Dragonite for fantastic damage and break multi-scale as we also snag a freeze. That's fantastic for us to start like this as Politoed goes for a Weather Ball into Snorlax, who tanks it reasonably well. We then Ice Punch Dragonite with Snorlax to take down the dragon without it doing any damage to us. His second Pokemon though is Porygon Z and it's extremely powerful. It Thunderbolts Empoleon, but out of sheer will he survives it on 9 HP and can reply with a rain boosted Torrent Surf to take Snorlax to a Slither and kill Porygon Z, as Politoed then takes out Snorlax with a Weather Ball. A decent trade for me, I must say. I send out Floatzel to keep taking advantage of the rain as Kieran sends out Incineroar, who intimidates Floatzel, lowering his attack. Politoed for some reason helping hands Incineroar rather than faking out, so Floatzel's Waterfall does way over half in the rain, activating Incineroar's Berry, before another Torrent boosted Surf takes him straight out, doing big damage to both Politoed and Floatzel too. Out comes Grimmsnarl. We just Waterfall him again with Floatzel before Empoleon Surf just kills every single Pokemon on the field, and this is fantastic. Empoleon is such an MVP. Kieran now sends out his last Pokemon Hydrapple as we go into Staraptor. He terrestrializes into a pure fighting type as Staraptor's Brave Bird then deals massive damage, one hit knocking out the Hydrapple for the first time ever, and with that we beat Kieran and beat every single Pokemon champion as Barry. Wow, I am amazed by Barry's sheer strength, only failing once on Howl with one attempt, and he beats Kieran first try too. What a great bunch of Pokemon and powerful at that. I don't owe him 10 million now, which is a nice bonus too. I hope you guys did enjoy this run. I know he had a Hitmonlee and Skarmory, but I completely forgot about that, so my apologies. If you liked the video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new or you already haven't, as it really helps the channel grow. As always, I appreciate you watching and I'll see you in the next one.